Are you struggling with failure and feeling lost? In this video, we delve into the profound lessons that failure can teach us, drawing inspiration from the principles of Buddhism. Lesson 1. Finding compassion for oneself. Failure can feel overwhelming, and it's easy to fall into the trap of self-criticism. One of the first hidden lessons in failure is learning how to be kind to yourself, even when things go wrong. It's human nature to beat ourselves up when we don't meet our own expectations or those of others. However, failure can be an opportunity to practice compassion for ourselves. In Buddhist teachings, self-compassion is not seen as a weakness, but rather as an important step toward healing and growth. When you fail, it's essential to remember that you are not alone. Every person experiences failure in their life, even though it may seem like you're the only one struggling. This understanding can help soften the harsh judgments we place on ourselves. Rather than seeing failure as a reflection of your worth, you can begin to see it as part of the human experience. When we approach our failures with compassion, we stop punishing ourselves for being imperfect. Instead, we allow space for self-kindness, understanding, and forgiveness. This shift in perspective opens the door to healing. It's a reminder that you, like everyone else, are doing your best with the tools and knowledge you have at the moment. This lesson invites you to speak to yourself the way you would speak to a dear friend who is going through a hard time. When you start to give yourself that same compassion, you'll notice that failure becomes less of a burden and more of an experience from which to learn and grow. Lesson 2. Gaining wisdom from experience. Failure is often viewed as the end of the road, but in reality, it's the beginning of wisdom. One of the most valuable lessons in failure is understanding that every setback carries within it a seed of wisdom. When we fail, we have the chance to reflect on what went wrong, and more importantly, why it went wrong. This reflection is the foundation of gaining wisdom from experience. In Buddhism, wisdom is one of the highest virtues. However, wisdom isn't something that is handed to us. It is something that is cultivated through life's experiences, and failure is one of the greatest teachers. While success can feel good and affirming, it doesn't always encourage the deep reflection that failure does. Success may confirm what you already know, but failure challenges you to rethink your assumptions, strategies, and approaches. To gain wisdom from failure, it's essential to approach it with an open mind. Instead of seeing failure as a dead end, view it as an opportunity for learning. What went wrong? What can be improved? What did this experience teach you about yourself or about the situation? By asking these questions, you can begin to extract the hidden lessons within the failure itself. Gaining wisdom from failure also involves patience. Sometimes the lessons are not immediately clear, and it may take time for them to reveal themselves. But over time, as you reflect on your experiences, you'll start to see patterns, and those patterns will help guide you in the future. Remember, wisdom is not about never making mistakes. It's about learning from those mistakes so that you can make better choices moving forward. Every failure brings with it an opportunity to become wiser, to make more informed decisions, and to grow as a person. Lesson 3. Recognizing the interconnectedness of life. One of the most powerful, yet often overlooked, lessons in failure is recognizing the interconnectedness of life. When things go wrong, we tend to focus inward, thinking only about how the failure affects us personally. But if we look deeper, we'll find that every failure is connected to a larger web of causes and effects. In Buddhist teachings, the concept of interconnectedness is central. Everything in life is connected. Our actions, the actions of others, and the broader world around us. When we fail, it's easy to place all the blame on ourselves. But often, our failures are influenced by external factors as well, things outside of our control. Recognizing the interconnectedness of life means understanding that failure is not just about individual shortcomings. It's about timing, circumstances, relationships, and the environment around us. Maybe you failed because you lacked the right support at the time, or perhaps external events played a role. Recognizing these connections can bring a sense of relief. It reminds us that failure is not entirely personal. It is part of a larger picture. This understanding can help us let go of self-blame and see failure as something more complex than just a personal shortcoming. It also helps us cultivate compassion for others. When we recognize that everyone is interconnected, we start to see that others are struggling with their own challenges, and we can offer them the same understanding we hope to receive. By recognizing the interconnectedness of life, you also begin to see that failure is not isolated. The lessons you learn from failure will ripple out into other areas of your life. The patience, wisdom, and compassion you develop through failure will influence your relationships, your work, and your overall outlook on life. This perspective allows you to see failure not as a standalone event, but as a valuable part of the greater whole. Lesson 4. Overcoming ego and pride. Failure often brings up feelings of shame, frustration, and disappointment. These feelings are often tied to our ego and pride. The ego likes to see itself as successful, capable, and in control. When we fail, our ego takes a hit, and it can be incredibly difficult to face. Buddhist teachings remind us that ego and pride can be obstacles to true happiness and peace. When we place too much importance on our ego, we become overly attached to success and the approval of others. We start to believe that our worth is tied to how well we perform, how much we achieve, or how others see us. When we fail, this illusion is shattered, and it can feel like the end of the world. But here lies one of the hidden gifts of failure. It forces us to confront our ego and pride. It's in moments of failure that we can learn to let go of the need to always be seen as successful. We begin to realize that our value is not determined by external achievements, but by who we are as individuals. Overcoming ego and pride doesn't mean that we stop caring about our goals or ambitions. It simply means that we stop allowing our sense of self-worth to be dictated by them. When we release the grip of the ego, we find more freedom in our actions. We are less afraid of failure because we no longer see it as a threat to our identity. Instead, we see it as part of the natural process of growth. This lesson is especially important in a world that often equates success with worth. But the truth is, real success comes from inner peace and self-understanding, not from external validation. By overcoming ego and pride, you open yourself to a deeper sense of fulfillment, one that is not shaken by temporary failures. Lesson 5. Letting go of the need for control. One of the reasons failure feels so devastating is because it shatters our illusion of control. We like to believe that we are in control of our lives, our outcomes, and our destiny. But failure reminds us that there are forces beyond our control, and that can be hard to accept. Buddhism teaches the importance of letting go of the need for control. It reminds us that control is often an illusion. We can plan, prepare, and put in our best effort, but there will always be elements beyond our control. Other people's actions, unforeseen circumstances, or even the natural course of events. When we cling too tightly to control, we set ourselves up for disappointment. Failure becomes even more painful because we feel like we've lost something we never really had in the first place. But if we learn to let go of the need for control, failure becomes less frightening. We begin to understand that while we can influence certain aspects of life, we cannot dictate the outcome. Letting go of control doesn't mean giving up on your goals or not caring about the results. It simply means releasing the need to force things to go a certain way. It's about doing your best and then accepting whatever happens, knowing that you've done all you can. This approach brings a sense of peace because you are no longer fighting against reality. When you let go of control, you open yourself to new possibilities. Sometimes, failure can lead you in a direction you never expected, but one that ultimately serves you better. By releasing the need to control every outcome, you allow life to unfold in ways that you may not have anticipated, but that can bring growth, learning, and new opportunities. Lesson 6. Practicing acceptance. Acceptance is one of the most important lessons in failure, and yet it's one of the hardest to practice. When we fail, our first instinct is often to resist. We want to deny it, fix it, or change it. But fighting against failure only increases our suffering. The more we resist reality, the more pain we create for ourselves. In Buddhist teachings, acceptance is not about resignation or giving up. It's about seeing things as they truly are, without judgment or attachment. When we accept failure, we stop fighting against it. We acknowledge that it has happened, and we allow ourselves to feel the emotions that come with it, whether that's sadness, disappointment, or frustration. By practicing acceptance, we create space for healing and growth. When we stop resisting failure, we can begin to see it more clearly. We can look at it with an open heart and mind, and from that place of acceptance, we can start to learn from it. Acceptance doesn't mean that you don't try again, or that you don't strive for improvement. It simply means that you are at peace with what is, even as you work toward what could be. When you practice acceptance, you free yourself from the constant struggle against reality, and that freedom allows you to move forward with clarity and purpose. Acceptance is about finding peace in the midst of life's challenges. It's about recognizing that failure, like everything else, is temporary. By accepting failure, you give yourself the gift of inner peace, and from that place of peace, you can begin to rebuild, grow, and move forward with greater wisdom and strength. Failure is not the end of the journey. It is a crucial part of the path toward growth, wisdom, and inner peace. The hidden lessons in failure are ones of compassion, wisdom, interconnectedness, humility, surrender, and acceptance. These lessons, drawn from the teachings of Buddhism, remind us that failure is not something to be feared, but something to be embraced. When we learn to approach failure with an open heart and mind, we discover that it is one of the greatest teachers in life. It teaches us to be kinder to ourselves, to seek wisdom in our experiences, to recognize the web of connections that influence our lives, to overcome our ego, to let go of control, and to practice acceptance. By embracing these lessons, we can transform failure from a source of pain into a source of growth and transformation. It is through failure that we learn the most important lessons about ourselves and about life, and it is through these lessons that we can find true peace, wisdom, and fulfillment.